First things first, rest in peace to Big L. He would have been 46 this Saturday. Alright, I know there's been a lot of Jordan Bulls related content on the channel lately, and my apologies. But it's either I talk about this, or I talk about the Bundesliga, or I talk about gardening, or I talk about how to grow a creepy mustache in quarantine. So I chose this. By now you've at least heard of The Last Dance, the 10-part docuseries that wasn't at all biased, and in terms of film, just the best film ever made, better than The Godfather. While the Jordan Bulls era was harped on plenty, other areas of his involvement in basketball haven't really been at all. Like his stint with the Wizards, which was his true last dance as a player, and which is getting a little bit more attention now, but an area getting even less attention is Jordan's role in the front office, what he was as a GM, which, to put it like Stephen A. Smith, is very, very bad. I know The Last Dance made Jordan out to be like Christ on earth, but we all have to remember that even Christ can make mistakes. If you think Jordan and Isaiah Thomas were competitive during their playing days, there may be even bigger competition when talking about who was the worst talent evaluator of the last 20 years. I mean, some even went as far as comparing the moves MJ made in a position of power to that of the Catholic Church burning Jan Hus at the stake in 1415, or the Nevada State Athletic Commission banning Nick Diaz for 5 years simply for marijuana use when his opponent Anderson Silva got banned only one for steroid use. Again, others have said that. I want to go on record saying I have never made those comparisons. But how did MJ get in this position? Well, Michael Jordan retired for the second time after the 98 season, which of course resulted in Michael Jordan's 6th ring as a player. Maybe they should make a movie about that. Jordan re-entered the basketball world as part owner and president of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards on January 19th, 2000. And this would be an uphill battle because the team was very bad. They would end that season 19-63, and to make matters worse, did not have a first-round draft pick, which pretty much just spells out disaster. For teams that suck that bad, the one thing you had to look forward to all year is the NBA draft. And being without it removes a lot of hope and frankly is kind of depressing. Of course they drafted in the second round, but nothing notable. MJ did his damnedest to rebuild, including trading $100 million man Juwan Howard along with 2 other players, and in exchange got a few other players including a member of the Dream Team. But unfortunately it was Christian Laettner. Then about a week later he bought out Rod Strickland. This was in February and March 2001 respectively. These moves were praised at the time because Jordan was freeing up much needed cap space before the first offseason with the luxury tax. The Wizards were obviously looking to rebuild. Luck was on their side as they finished with the 3rd worst record in the NBA, which gives them the 3rd best chance in the draft lottery, but they ultimately won the draft lottery, giving them the 1st overall pick. A valuable pick, a pick that is supposed to set the tone for your franchise for the next 10 years. And who would be the man Michael Jordan would put in charge to lead this rebuild with the 1st overall pick? Drum roll please, Kwame Brown. Listen, I don't need to rant about how shitty Kwame was for the Wizards, because that's been done before. The truth is, when you draft a player out of high school, it's high risk, high reward. You can get a guy like Kobe or Tracy McGrady, or you can get a guy like, let's say, Kwame. Sadly for Jordan, the Wizards got Kwame. Kwame, despite an actually respectable 12-year career in the NBA, did not come close to living up to the hype for the Wizards and was widely regarded as the worst pick 1st overall in NBA draft history. That of course is up until Anthony Bennett, or if you're a Sixers fan, Markelle Fultz. Jordan of course unretired and announced his return to basketball in September of 2001 for the Wizards and announced he would be donating his salary to the victims of the 9/11 attacks. Very classy. Of course, the problem with the teams that are rebuilding is that no star free agents want to play there. So MJ said, fuck it, I'll do it myself, as a 38-year-old Jordan returned to the court and played pretty well, albeit not well enough for the Wizards to make the playoffs. They finished 37-45 and 10th place, which obviously does not qualify for the playoffs. While technically not general manager at the time, he was suspected to be heavily involved in the player movement. A young Rip Hamilton, who would go on to do great things in Detroit, was traded for an over-the-hill Jerry Stackhouse. The Wizards finished the next season with a record of 37-45 again, and finished one place better, 9th place, but again, didn't make the playoffs. Remember, 8 teams make playoffs. That was Jordan's official last year in the NBA, and he went to the Wizards owner and fully expected to get his job back as president of basketball operations, GM, whatever you want to call it. And you can understand what he's coming from, loyalty to the organization, to come out of retirement, sacrifice his well-being, especially his knees, to help a rebuilding Wizards team. He thought he would be rewarded by getting his job back. However, Wizards owner Abe Pollin had other ideas and fired Michael Jordan, which caught him completely off guard, so I'm guessing the interaction went something like this. You can't fire me, I'm the greatest basketball player of all time. Yeah, but you drafted Kwame, so pack your shit. Something along those lines. Poland went on record months later saying it was not a healthy atmosphere to produce a happy organization or a winning team. MJ did his thing for a few years until on June 15, 2006, bought a stake in the Charlotte Bobcats, becoming the second largest shareholder and cutting a deal that would make him president of basketball operations. And this is where the fun begins. Just weeks later, mere weeks, the Bobcats would draft Adam Morrison, 3rd overall, a stud in college who did not even come close to making it in the NBA, especially for the Bobcats. Some argue that Jordan was just new to the job and wasn't heavily involved in that decision, but I call bullshit. You think MJ is just going to let someone else make the decision for who to pick 3rd overall? I don't think so. Also, while doing research for this video, I actually found a signed $300 Adam Morrison jersey from the Bobcats on Amazon. So if you want to show your support for Michael Jordan's picks, show your support for Adam Morrison and his time on the Bobcats, this is a steal. If you got a stimulus check recently and it's burning a hole in your pocket, I think this is a great way to spend it. Link in the description. From 2007 to 2009, the Bobcats and Jordan squandered 3 lottery picks on guys that had somewhat decent or still have somewhat decent runs in the NBA, but are not at all franchise changers, guys like Brendan Wright, DJ Augustine, and Gerald Henderson. The Bobcats had a record of 32-50 and 35-47 in the 2007-2008 season and the 2008-2009 season respectively, before ultimately making the playoffs in the 2009-2010 season with the help of the only Bobcats All-Star in league history, of course Mr. Gerald Wallace. Charlotte would lose in the first round of the playoffs and didn't have a 2010 first-round draft pick due to a trade 2 years prior that netted them Alexia Jinsa. Beautiful. Maybe Jordan thought he could make up for it by signing a former number 1 overall pick. I'm talking about Kwame, folks. The Bobcats would go 31-48 the next year, missing the playoffs, and based on their moves, the plan was clear: to rebuild. They traded Steven Jackson and Gerald Wallace separately, which netted them draft picks, one of which turned out to be Tobias Harris. Nice. But he didn't play a game for the Bobcats, and they traded that for Bismack Biyombo. Okay. Michael Jordan and the Bobcats did one great thing in the 2011 NBA draft: avoiding the Jimmer Fredette landmine and taking Kemba Walker 9th overall. They get an A++ for that. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could prepare them for what was about to happen in the 2011-2012 season for the Bobcats, a team that went 7-59 due to a shortened season, which is good for the worst winning percentage ever in NBA history. Just downright dog shit. Think of the worst professional sports team you've ever thought of, and I guarantee you this team was worse than that. And that wasn't even the shitty icing on the shitty cake. To make matters much worse, the Bobcats didn't even win the lottery that year despite going 7-59 and missed out on drafting Anthony Davis and selected Michael Kidd Gilchrist 2nd overall, a guy an elderly Michael Jordan reportedly beat one-on-one, and one pick below him was Bradley Beal. Also in that draft, Damian Lillard, Andre Drummond. Fuck it, I'd take Austin Rivers over Michael Kidd Gilchrist. And unsurprisingly, that fall, Michael Jordan agreed to take a step back in the decision-making process for the team. There have been some bright moments for the franchise in the past 10 years, including going back to being the Charlotte Hornets again, and I apologize, I may have called the Bobcats the Hornets once or twice, but it's all the same thing. Of course, they went to that in the 2014-2015 season. Of course, another bright spot is the rise of Kemba Walker becoming a bona fide star, becoming an all-star, although his tenure in Charlotte may be summarized by the front office failing to find pieces around him in order for the Hornets to become a contender. Al Harrington had a nice little run there, but ultimately since MJ joined the front office, a lot of bad basketball moves have been made. Charlotte has only made the playoffs 3 times since MJ bought in, and the record since MJ's tenure is 464 and 651 according to the Charlotte Observer. Check out their great article in the description. Jordan's time in Charlotte has not been good. A lot of moving pieces but no results. Moves I didn't even mention, like trading overpaid Emeka Okafor for Tyson Chandler, and then a year later Tyson Chandler isn't even on the team anymore. The Hornets, Bobcats, whatever you want to call them, have never been considered by anyone to be a real contender the last 10 years. Moving pieces with no real net gain as well as shitty draft picks has defined MJ's time in the front office. And while he took a step back recently, it's unclear as to how much of a role he still has. I mean, he is the majority owner of the Hornets now. Regardless, a guy that many consider to be the GOAT basketball player is definitely not the GOAT talent evaluator. Maybe MJ should have just left that job to the true GOAT general manager, Jerry Krause. Ho ho! Alright, that is the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I feel dumb saying it, but it really does help the channel, as well as check out the website, a lot of great blogs on there, and check us out on social media. Alright, that is it. 1 video a week. paradise. Play us off, my friend.
What we gonna do? Every day, I'm with you. Cannot find no one greater than my baby. What a time.